Amjad, a very brief question. Did Obama administration really try its best in dealing the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in a just manner?
Well, I think that's dependent on your perspective. I think from the perspective of the administration, they actually tried very hard in the first year. They spent a lot of political capital. They got punished for it, and they decided it wasn't worth it to continue trying, in any grandstanding way. It became a question of maintaining the conflict, controlling the conflict, rather than trying to resolve it.
I see. But right now, is the administration at the mood of that nothing can be done on this file, therefore they just shelve the file?
I think from the president's interview with The Atlantic and the interview that he just recently gave, he's made it, I think, clear that he thinks that a lot of the conflicts in the Middle East are unresolvable, at least unresolvable by the United States. He does not think that the United States can play a role in solving them, but that the United States needs to intervene if America's strategic interests, at a very high bar, if America's strategic interests are threatened. The question of Palestine and the question of Israel, is very important to the United States. The question of Palestine is only important to the United States in as much as it affects Israel. If it doesn't affect Israel, then it wouldn't be important to the US government at all.
Does the question of Palestine now affect Israel or not?
Right now, I think it's not risen to the level where it impacts enough. I think there may be, the president may try something before the end of the administration that would help tee up the conflict for the next president to try to do something with. But I don't think that there will be any major serious effort to try to actually end it.
Should we expect any new trial from the next president?
Every president likes to try. The Arab-Israeli conflict is like it's like a holy grail that every president at some point in their administration tries to get to, and then finds that they don't have the political will. It's not that the United States doesn't have in my opinion, it's not that the United States doesn't have the power to resolve the issue or the power to influence it. It just doesn't have the political will. It's not willing to spend the political capital that it needs to in order to get to where it wants to be. And so therefore, I think the next president will probably be in the same boat. They may try, but they probably will find that they're not ready to spend the political capital. Ultimately, US policy in the Middle East is reactive. It's not visionary. It's not trying to make the Middle East into something. It's simply trying now, at this point, it's now trying to keep the Middle East away from everything else. So it's attempting to kind of build a wall, since that seems to be a fashionable rhetoric right now. It's trying to build a wall around the Middle East to keep the conflicts confined and allow the players in the region to work it out. This means that this offers an opportunity for a lot of negative players like ISIL and other groups like that to play a very negative role, but it also offers up an opportunity for countries and responsible actors in the region, civil society, to try to come up with novel ways of interacting and forcing the issue, not only for the United States, but for the European Union and for other countries.
Lastly, when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian issue, when you look at the next president agenda, does it really matter whether the next president is Republican or Democratic when it comes to the Palestinian fight?
On this Palestinian issue in particular, it probably, well, I don't want to say it doesn't matter entirely, because each time all presidents have generally stayed within the same area when they've tried to deal with this issue. We've not had an election in a very long time where the Republican side and the Democratic side have had such strikingly, startlingly different views of the world. 4 out of the 5 remaining presidential candidates on the Republican side have said that they don't even want to struggle for a two-state solution. They don't even think there should be a two-state solution. There's only one Republican candidate who actually thinks that he should even try, and ironically, that's Donald Trump. And the remainder have actually said, even John Kasich, who's one of the most moderate, has said that we shouldn't even try to get to 2 states. That's a change. That's a change in American policy. Before, even Ronald Reagan and the Republican presidents before him thought that two states was something that they should try to achieve. So it is a change. So I'm not sure that it's irrelevant who's president. I think that it very well could be that if there's a Republican president who follows through with what they've said in the debates, then they very well may not only simply not try to get to two states, they may help Israel reinforce a one-state reality.
Well, just a last addition. Of all the candidates, which one do you think got the most interesting foreign policy vision when it comes to Israel-Palestine issue?
I think on Israel and Palestine, it's a difficult dynamic because it's such a highly politicized domestic issue in the United States, and so it's very hard to actually separate, the political pandering during an election season from the actual policy. But the biggest trends, the biggest two trends we're looking at are, there is a trend that actually agrees with Obama that the conflicts of the region really need to be walled off. We should only intervene in the most radical circumstances when our strategic interests are threatened. And in fact, that's not his former Secretary of State's position. It's not Hillary Clinton's position. It's actually Bernie Sanders' position. Hillary Clinton's position is actually more like John Kerry's, far more, let's intervene, let's get involved, let's try. And that could be for good or bad. Let's try to get involved. Generally in the United States means let's get involved militarily as opposed to diplomatically. So it's unclear. On the Republican side, you have the same thing. There's also a very activist, let's intervene and bomb and militarily be involved, etc. It's a very military involved focused solution to a lot of the Middle East problems. And there are only a few. As a matter of fact, there's probably only one candidate, ironically, on the Republican side who also feels that we should be careful about constantly overextending ourselves militarily.
Amjad Atallah, it was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.